Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, more medical myths. Also, the V-Team takes a look at political porn. And Governor Robert Bentley does a 180 on gaming. Smart?
Don't call me stupid.
Oh, right! To call you stupid would be an insult to stupid people! I've known sheep that could outwit you. I've worn dresses with higher IQs, but you think you're an intellectual, don't you, Ape?
Apes don't read philosophy.
Yes, they do, Otto. They just don't understand it.
Maybe an ape could be governor. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V.
The Voice of Alabama Politics, with your host, Bill Brett. Now, the #1 political show in Alabama, The V.
Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team. Welcome all.
Good day.
Hey. Glad to be here.
Jack is in Houston.
No, Austin.
Austin, that's right. He's in Austin visiting friends. He used to live down there. We kind of miss him, but I heard you almost ran into him.
Yeah, I passed him in the airway. I passed him in his Southwest flight, my Southwest flight. He was going to Austin. I was coming back
Y'all
from Dallas.
wave?
We did.
Well, I know, Claire, I say this every week because it's true every week. It has been crazy. I mean, just the Roy Moore trial, the impeachment hearing. I mean, when's it going to stop?
I don't know. You know, there is a presidential election going on, but people don't focus on it because there's so much craziness stuff going on with Alabama politics.
We got so much political porn going on down here, nobody can watch anything else. I tell you, one of the things that was shocking, we were able to obtain this week a letter to Nancy Azar, or Stephanie Azar, the head of Medicaid. And this letter was from the CEO of Children's Hospital, a very smart man, Mike Warner. And it said that the RCOs were not going to deliver as promised. The money wasn't there, the services weren't there. I mean, Claire, it was a devastating letter.
Yeah, it was pretty devastating. And I would think that Senator Arthur Orr and Steve Klaus were pretty shocked or very disgusted when they saw this as well. Yeah, I mean, it just basically says that these RCOs are going to run the tab all the way through the roof, and they're not going to provide the services that they thought they were. And he also, I thought was very interesting, he basically says this goes against the whole grain and the salt of the governor's task force. So was it somebody at the Medicaid agency, the commissioner and their staff, that worked with these outside RCOs to put this together? Because Mr. Warren, as the people know, he was the former CEO of Energy Corporation, Energen. You know, he's put the hay down where the goats can get it.
Yeah, I mean, Beth, he really laid it out. I mean, step by step. It's not what we were sold a bill of goods.
Right, and I just, you know, when you look at the way that the RCOs work, I mean, this is foreseeable, but, you know, they work in other states. So what I want to know is, like, where are we deviating from the way that this works in 46 other states versus the way that we've got it going here? Because, you know, inherently, yeah, these RCOs are going to offer fewer services for more money because they get given an amount of money per person, and they're told to provide services and keep the change. So, you know, we've got to find a way to make that accountable where they're not making or they're pricing out smaller businesses.
But if you've got it where the model, as I understand it right now, is that UAB would be like an RCO provider, but yet they would be telling children's what they could and could not offer and how much they're willing to reimburse.
Well, they're like Big Brother. They are like the managed care.
And the, you know, University of South Alabama, and then something up in Huntsville. But a very valid point, like you were talking about, what to reimburse. I thought it was astounding the administrative fees can be 4%, but it looked as if they were going to go up to 10%, but then CMS allows it to go up to 15%.
Well, and that's one of the
That's
points that he makes, that look, these administrative fees,
out of line.
We won't be able to pay docs, we won't be able to pay the staff, we're going to have to cut money.
Yes.
The craziest thing, though, Susan, is he said the legislature is going to be shocked because it's going to basically bankrupt the general fund, and it's not going to do what we were told it was.
We're talking about possibly another $50 million here that it's going to cost. I mean, we just now barely covered what we needed to get in the Medicaid fund to get to the RCOs, and now we get there and it's going to just explode again.
Well,
right?
the good thing is they've delayed this until July of 2017. So thank goodness Mr. Mike Warren brought this to their attention at Children's, and so hopefully they'll pull the plug and they won't do them
Well,
all.
I mean, the thing, higher cost, fewer services, all this stuff, and they led the legislature to believe during the special session that they had done the right thing. I mean, they pulled the wool over their eyes.
Right, legislature's operating with bad information, and what it really comes down to is for the last, as long as I can remember, all the way back to the 2012 vote to pull the money to fund all this stuff. It was a September 1st vote. We've been trying to find all these ways to cut corners and find not necessarily a solution, but find a way just to patch it, to plug the hole until we can get to the next year. We've got to have somebody with the stamina and with the leadership to stand up and say, look, we have to actually resolve this. It might be painful, but we've got to get this right.
For the record, they've been plugging that same hole for 25 plus years.
Right, I'm just saying, I'm going back to when I was in college and what I remember. I mean, I wasn't reading the news.
Right.
Well, I got to tell you, from what I'm hearing, Speaker Mac McCutcheon is standing up and he's looking at all the options. But I don't think they told him that this program was as big a trouble as it is.
If I were in their shoes, I think I'd bring the CEO, Mike Warren, into the table and let him give everybody a briefing on what's really going on.
And let's get somebody from Medicaid there to say, why didn't they, if they knew this, inform the legislature when they were in special session so they'd know what to do?
Well, you know what? They didn't pass the lottery, which would have solved this money problem here. They didn't do that. They didn't do the things they needed to do because they didn't know.
They didn't have the information.
Well, excuse me, they didn't have the Paul Harvey rest of the story from the staff over at the Medicaid agency or the governor's office.
I mean, Beth,
one of the two.
You mentioned you cannot run a government if the people in the agencies and the bureaucracy is hiding what they're doing.
Right, and this whole thing comes down to we've got to know exactly what's going on. We've got to find a solution for it. And I want to know why, again, when something doesn't make sense, follow the money. I want to know why this RCO plan has deviated from what the governor's task force recommended. Right. And I want to know why we can't do that plan as it was approved, because we might end up having to go back and get a renewed federal approval for this. It might not even comply anymore.
Well, and the pay they're going to get is not what they thought they were going to get. I mean, Bentley this week, to his credit, they restored the 15, not restored, they
paid back.
They restored it.
That's what the 15 million, Beth, but it's sort of a ruse in itself, isn't it? They cut them off.
It is. They told these doctors, oh, we don't have this money, so we're in a Medicaid crisis, so we're going to reduce what we reimburse you for services. And now, oh, magic, happy day, we have Medicaid money from somewhere, so we're going to pay you again. And it's funny, they cut this off in August and September, which is when everybody's going back to school physicals, getting their checkups so they can go back to school. And I just don't know how these doctors are expected to budget like this. It's just not doable.
I mean, you have to understand, doctors are small businesses too, okay? And they're not, and that's the word here gets a little tricky because they're restoring a reimbursement. Right. But they're not going to reimburse them for what they took from them in August and September.
They turned the water off for 2 months. They're turning it back on. No, they're not going to reimburse them.
And the plants died.
And then some of the plants didn't. They didn't get their services. But, it's very odd that mysteriously 15 million comes out. So thank goodness it has.
But
the thing is, what does this do for rural hospitals and for small practices? Because, in an area like Birmingham or Montgomery, you've got a lot of people with private health insurance, and they can absorb the cost where Medicaid doesn't reimburse adequately. But what does this do in areas with high Medicaid reimbursements?
Well, we're going to have to answer that question later. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and analysis.
I'm Deontay Wilder. As the heavyweight champion of the world, it is very important to make sure that every punch I throw is thrown with purpose in order to make a difference in my fight. I feel the same way about decisions made in my home state of Alabama and our nation. That is why I'm registered to vote. I encourage you to register to vote and remember on Election Day to bring a valid photo ID to the polls. Let's make a difference.
I'm Dario Melton. When I think about Selma, I think about home. This is the neighborhood that I grew up in. Like so many other kids, this is where my hopes and dreams came alive. I believe that we can do big, important things right here in Selma. I believe we can work together to grow Selma from our roots out, building a city we can all be proud to call home, with safe streets, quality schools, and 21st century jobs. I'm Dario Melton, and I'm running for mayor. Let's put Selma first.
I'm Jonathan Barbie with an Alabama Political Reporter news update. On Friday, the 9-panel Court of the Judiciary, a politically appointed body, chose to suspend Chief Justice Roy Moore for the remainder of his term without pay. The charges stem from a January 2016 order to the probate judges telling them that the matter of issuing marriage licenses to same-sex couples was still pending before the Alabama Supreme Court. Critics argue that Chief Justice Moore, as the head of the Alabama court system, should have ordered the probate judges to issue the licenses, and not doing so after the U.S. Supreme Court had ruled in favor of same-sex marriage violated the canon of judicial ethics. The Southern Poverty Law Center brought the charges before the Judicial Inquiry Commission, and they agreed and then brought the case before the Court of the Judiciary, which heard the case on Wednesday. Moore's attorney said that they would appeal to the state Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has the power to vacate the appointed court's ruling. The last time that the people of Alabama elected Roy Moore to be the Chief Justice, he was removed by the Court of the Judiciary for refusing to move a Ten Commandments monument from the state Supreme Court building. In other news, Acting Finance Director Bill Newton was quietly ushered out the door with a premature announcement that Clinton Carter would be the new Director of Finance. Montgomery insiders report that Carter was brought in to take the Finance Department in a new direction. This has been an Alabama Political Reporter news update. I'm Jonathan Barbie. Now back to the voice of Alabama politics.
It's more craziness. But then the next thing, we got this whole, we go from this to what we're doing to the Supreme Court justice, and then what they're trying to do in the House to the governor.
They're trying to impeach Bentley. There's just nothing. I mean, it's not making sense. You know what I mean? They're trying to get powers they don't have. Tell them about the subpoena power thing, Susan.
According to the lawyer for the committee,
Sharman.
Mr. Sharman,
apparently,
who said he was part of Watergate.
Yes,
right, of course. Well, Whitewater.
Whitewater. What did I say? Watergate.
Watergate, anyway. According to him, the fact that the Constitution does not say that the legislature does not have subpoena power means that they do. If it's not there, then that means they actually have the power. So it's an implied power that they have to enforce subpoenas. I mean, that's how far out on a limb we're going.
Y'all talk to lawyers. Y'all know how this stuff works. Y'all don't need me around here.
Shut up. So what do you think?
That's not how it works. Like, that's not how this works.
It's not how it works. And you even had Representative England and Representative Gwendolyn Gavan, both who are practicing lawyers, and they're like, oh, wait a minute. We don't have the power to do this. You're just assuming it because it says we don't.
It seemed like the whole meeting, this meeting of this committee, was basically to decide what kind of powers they had. The whole thing was about what can we do? What are our powers?
Their muscle, right?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, like, it's still, like, these are kind of uncharted waters. Like, we're really not sure what we've got and what we can do here. So a lot of it's just them kind of trying to get together and figure out again, because it comes separation of powers here. Right. What can the legislative branch do to the executive branch?
Exactly.
Well, I think it's interesting that Mr. Sharman, who is representing Bentley is going after Bentley for the House, is partners with the guy who is going after Bentley over stars. I mean, this incestuous...
aren't there enough good lawyers to go around?
Well,
apparently not.
No.
They're scarce in Alabama because there's so much corruption going on.
Yeah, well,
they're also busy.
Well, we're trying to keep everybody fully employed.
Well, if you're in a surrounding state, I suggest to come on over.
I think we've got a lot of good attorneys who are
saying, I'm not touching this. Right. I'm not getting involved in anything in Montgomery.
Yeah. Once again, last word. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
I'm John Merrill. As your Secretary of State, I want to ensure that every eligible U.S. citizen that's a resident of Alabama is registered to vote and has a qualified government-issued photo ID. You can register to vote by downloading our app for your iPhone or your Android, or you can visit alabamavotes.gov. We want you to be registered to vote and have a photo ID. You can make a difference. We'll see you at the polls.
I'm Dario Melton. When I think about Selma, I think about home. This is the neighborhood that I grew up in. Like so many other kids, this is where my hopes and dreams came alive. I believe that we can do big, important things right here in Selma. I believe we can work together to grow Selma from our roots out, building a city we can all be proud to call home, with safe streets, quality schools, and 21st century jobs. I'm Dario Melton, and I'm running for mayor. Let's put Selma first.
I'm Charles Barkley. As an impact player on the court in college and the NBA, it was very important for me to make a difference in the game. I feel the same way about decisions made in my home state of Alabama and in our nation. That's why I'm registered to vote. I want to encourage you to be registered to vote and make sure you bring your voter ID to the polls. Let's make a difference.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics.
So I have to tell you that real quick. I realized I had Jack's coffee.
Yeah.
So we've switched that out. So I should be back to that coffee.
Oh, that's funny. Hey, listen, I do want to, talking about, I want to stick with this this impeachment thing. We were talking to Spencer Collier, former top cop in Alabama, who's got lawsuits against Bentley. He was interviewed by two junior associates of Mr. Sharman, and so were a couple of other people that talked to us. They didn't want to go on the record, but every one of them referred to it either as a joke or amateur hour. I mean, Beth, you've got defense, you've got defense attorneys. That's what you got trying to investigate. How does that work?
I have almost all but given up on this entire process. But the thing is it comes down to, is it a body with subpoena power or is it not? And if they don't have subpoena power, you don't have to talk to them. I mean, you can go in there and say what you want to say, but if they don't have subpoena power,
My understanding of a lot of it was the witnesses that they were examining were actually trying to give them the questions to ask because they didn't know enough about it to ask questions.
Well, Spencer Collier said the only thing they really want, the two things they focused on was the love affair and what communication did Spencer and Matt Hart have. They asked Spencer Collier for all his communication with Matt Hart. Claire?
I'm like, Beth, does he really have subpoena power? I mean, it just seems like this thing is not very well thought out. I mean, I don't know if this is Mike Jones all doing or is this the House Oversight Rules Committee that's doing all this? I mean, they're making a mockery of themselves.
I mean, Susan, the things that these guys didn't ask was, they gave one person only 2 minutes to explain their relationship with Governor Bentley. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Yeah, I know. It just seems like, it's a complete circus is what it is.
It seems like a waste of money as well.
You know what it is? It's billable
agree.
hours. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
that's what I was about to say. What I can't figure out is, are these people incompetent and just don't know what they're doing in the run of the tab? Or is it that this is not actually even a serious investigation and they're just over here playing lawyer for a few minutes?
Listen, they kept Spencer Collier on the stand for 4 hours. 2 junior associates.
No, he wasn't on the stand.
Not on the stand, but they questioned him for 4 hours. You were talking about at least $1,500 right there.
Yeah, but he volunteered, and several other former staffers told him gave him the Bronx cheer.
Yeah, they
Claire.
did.
I probably would have done that as well.
Yeah, but Spencer said he wasn't going to meet with him again. It was just too ridiculous.
Yeah, I need to see that subpoena.
But I tell you, the interesting thing to me, I was thinking about this week, and I thought, we got all kinds of porn. I mean, the world is full of porn. You got disaster porn, war porn, porn.
Food porn. Food Network's my jam.
Food Network porn. In Alabama, we got some hardcore political porn, Beth. I mean, it's just one disaster, one ugly thing after another.
And we were talking about this the other night in terms of what it means for, and we were talking about more in the context of the national debate, but what it means where this level of like circus and clown car debauchery is becoming so normal for us that, people don't even follow state and local news unless it is some kind of reality show scandal. Like, this is almost what you have to do to get people to pay attention, and it's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, Claire, we did the Medicaid article, and we all thought it was a big deal, and nobody else has picked it up. I mean, but you've been around, we've all been around this thing, and it just doesn't, it seems like it's worse.
We've had this 3 years with Mike Hubbard and the indictment, and now the governor and all this stuff, and it's just, it just goes on, and then another 2-year guy, a lady at a college. The corruption is just so wide and deep in Alabama, and then everything they've done to George Roy Moore. So we just got the national spotlight all over us.
And we hear that one of our senators is going to be indicted in the very near future.
And all of this ends up being a distraction from the real problems we have, like Medicaid and the prisons.
Right.
So all of this sideshows going on over here, meanwhile we're ignoring the real problems.
I would think that the new ethics commissioner, Mr. Albritton, is extremely busy, or shall be.
Well, he should be. If he's not doing his job.
You know what this reminds me of, though, is it's almost like, after 9/11, we had the war on terror, and terror is this broad, kind of vague concept. But it was like, we have to go get bin Laden, and we had an enemy, we had somebody to go after. And so, when you have somebody like Mike Hubbard, or somebody that's like a universally accepted, like, this is our, state defendant. But, now it's like the war on corruption in Alabama, and like, where is it and who is it? And we don't really know. And it's
there's just so many of them.
Yeah.
Right.
And, there again, Mike still hadn't even, gone off to the jail cell.
He's got till October 19th to file that appeal.
Well, the crazy thing in my mind is that
isn't that when he was indicted?
When they talk about pornography in the legal sense, they say it's wrong if it's obscene, and that's obscene means that it's generally held to be against the community. It's just nasty. And the real nasty stuff here is that we don't take care of the business of the people because we're so busy having the people getting the business from so many politicians.
Right.
Susan, we got about 2 minutes left. I know I was on a soapbox there, but we all get on them. I tell you,
we have large soapboxes
I tell you, the crazy.
There's some more crazy. What happened with Bentley's lawyer?
That's the Bentley, we're getting to that. Joe Espy left Bentley's employ this week. He was his private attorney. And because we understand that when Bentley did the 180, which is what we're calling it, and he said he was okay with Victoryland, he wanted them to reopen and get those jobs going, and he issued that order in 15. Now all of a sudden he's issued an order that said, no, that order is not, y'all didn't understand that order, it was missed.
JK.
I thought I was watching Linda Blair and The Exorcist. Beth?
You know, it's almost like he tries to think for himself for a minute, and then somebody says, no, that's not what you wanted to do, silly. Why don't you do it like this? You know, and I've given up trying to keep up with this. You know, whatever. Leave them be. Let them do great jobs.
Milton, Joe Espy has represented Milton for years, so I mean, I would see that would be a huge conflict of interest.
When the governor signed that letter along with the Attorney General, right there was the conflict.
But here's the big thing.
I know,
If they go down there. They go down there. These are new machines from a new vendor. They are totally different, we're told. They've been verified. And so they can't just get on the horses and start doing the old 47.
This is not Milton's verification. This is a verification from one of the largest, most respected vendors in the United States. It was verified. They were shown to the sheriff approved. You know, this is a different kind of machine. This is a whole new ballgame.
I mean, even Kackelman, who's the young man who's trying to prosecute these guys, he said, you know, we're going to have to start all over again. This could have been settled, Claire, and you and I and all of us know it. They just didn't want to do it, right?
Stay tuned for more circus in Alabama, right?
Hey, by next week, Bentley will be saying, leave them be. It'll be fine. So.
Well, we're hearing that it depends on what Becky says, so it's whatever
we keep hearing all these crazy announcements, and something might happen. So I don't know.
Well, we'll see.
Is there any tail feathers floating around?
I don't know. Hold on to your wallet, your whiskey, and your women.
Watch those cowboy boots.
You know, the legislature is in town all the time. You've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.
I'm John Merrill. As your Secretary of State, I want to ensure that every eligible U.S. citizen that's a resident of Alabama is registered to vote and has a qualified government-issued photo ID. You can register to vote by downloading our app for your iPhone or your Android, or you can visit alabamavotes.gov. We want you to be registered to vote and have a photo ID. You can make a difference. We'll see you at the polls.
I'm Dario Melton. When I think about Selma, I think about home. This is the neighborhood that I grew up in. Like so many other kids, this is where my hopes and dreams came alive. I believe that we can do big, important things right here in Selma. I believe we can work together to grow Selma from our roots out, building a city we can all be proud to call home, with safe streets, quality schools, and 21st century jobs. I'm Dario Melton, and I'm running for mayor. Let's put Selma first.